It was my son's birthday party, a celebration that should have been filled with joy. Yet it ended with a terror I hadn't anticipated. My granddaughter, Molly, a young woman usually composed and thoughtful, grabbed my arm, her touch surprisingly firm, her eyes wide with unadulterated panic. "Grandpa, let's get out of here." "Now." Her voice was a desperate whisper, barely audible above the party chatter. I was stunned. "Why?" I asked, confusion clouding my mind. The music was playing. Laughter drifted from the backyard, and the aroma of barbecue filled the air. Everything seemed normal. "Just go, please," she begged, her grip tightening, her knuckles white. There was an urgency in her plea, a raw, uncharacteristic fear that cut through the pleasant haze of the evening. I'd known Molly for 18 years, watched her grow from a timid child into a brilliant, independent young woman. I trusted her implicitly, more than I trusted most people, and certainly more than I trusted her father. That trust, in that moment, saved me from a terrible act orchestrated by my own son. You would not believe what he was planning to do. The confrontation that ignited this terrifying plot had happened just days before. My morning routine had been interrupted, not by the usual quiet hum of the neighborhood, but by a frantic banging on my front door. Trevor, my only son, burst in mid-sentence, not bothering with the formality of a knock. "Dad, I need you to listen to me this time without jumping to conclusions." His entrance was overly dramatic. His confidence felt strangely rehearsed, like he'd practiced this precise moment in his car, parked just outside my quiet suburban home. I watched him, slowly removing my reading glasses, carefully folding the evening newspaper and setting it aside. The leather armchair, a loyal companion, through countless quiet evenings, creaked under my weight as I deliberately straightened my posture. "Evening to you too, son," I replied, my voice dry, carrying the subtle weariness of 40 years spent dealing with overeager contractors who consistently promised the impossible. What's so urgent it couldn't wait for a proper greeting? Trevor, oblivious or simply uncaring, began to pace towards my mahogany bookshelf. Ben spun back, his hands gesturing wildly, a whirlwind of restless energy. "This is it, Dad, the opportunity I've been waiting for. A real estate syndicate with guaranteed returns." I stood, my movements unhurried, deliberate, as I walked toward my filing cabinet. Trevor's eyes, usually so assured, followed me nervously, betraying a flicker of apprehension. I retrieved a manila folder, its label neatly marked. "Trevor Investments 2019 to 2025. Guaranteed, you say?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I spread the documents across my antique coffee table, their stark white pages a stark contrast. To the rich wood. 15% returns, perhaps? Maybe 20? "Dad, this is different," he insisted, his voice rising, a familiar note of desperation creeping in despite his feigned confidence. Like the Miami condos were different? I countered, pulling out a faded receipt from the folder. $75,000 gone in 3 months, Trevor. That guaranteed rental income turned into a foreclosure notice. Trevor's jaw tightened. His confident posture, so carefully constructed moments before, visibly crumbled as he recognized the damning papers. Bank statements, convoluted contracts, canceled checks, a chronological chronicle of his spectacular failures. "You never trust me." His voice cracked, rising to a shout that echoed off the hardwood floors, each word bouncing back as if to mock him. "Every time I try to build something, you sabotage it with your negativity." I ignored his outburst, opening another folder. The cryptocurrency mining equipment that never arrived. $50,000 to a scammer you met online. That was different. He interjected, a desperate, almost pleading tone now in his voice. I continued shuffling through the papers, each one a testament to his perpetual poor judgment. The food truck business with a convicted felon as your partner? $30,000 in startup costs. Lasted exactly 93 days. Trevor's face flushed a deep, angry red. He lunged for his jacket, which he'd carelessly thrown on my couch earlier, his movements sharp, agitated. "You're impossible. This syndicate has real properties, real investors, real returns." "Show me the documentation," I stated, my gaze unwavering. I don't have it with me, he muttered, avoiding my eyes. Then you don't have my money, I concluded, the finality of my words hanging heavy in the air, the silence that stretched between. Use was like a chasm, vast and unbridgeable. Outside, the evening shadows crept across my lawn, slowly swallowing the remnants of daylight. Somewhere down Maple Street, a neighbor's dog barked, its distant sound a stark contrast to the tension. In my living room, Trevor's shoulders sagged for a fleeting moment, the weight of his failures momentarily crushing him, before he squared them again, a flicker of defiance returning to his eyes. Fine, he snarled, his voice laced with bitter resentment. When? This deal makes millions without you. Don't come crawling back, asking for your cut. He stormed toward the door, his footsteps heavy, reverberating on my oak floors. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle my windows, a violent exclamation. Mark to our conversation. Through the glass, I watched him fumble with his car keys. His earlier bravado completely evaporated, replaced by a raw, unmasked frustration. The engine of his car roared to life with unnecessary force, echoing the rage he couldn't contain. Gravel scattered as he backed out of my driveway, tires squealing slightly in his haste. The red taillights glowed, angry in the gathering dusk. As his car disappeared around the corner, I remained standing by the window, watching the empty street, long after the sound of his engine faded into the quiet evening. The red glow of his taillights was just a memory, a phantom of his departure. I stepped back from the window, my reflection ghost-like in the darkening glass. The house felt hollow now, filled with the lingering echoes of raised voices and a slammed door. I moved to the kitchen, my feet finding their familiar path across the old, creaking floorboards. The coffee ritual began, a comforting anchor in the turbulent wake of the argument. Grinding beans, measuring water, the steady, rhythmic drip that slowly filled the evening silence. 40 years of marriage had taught me that some conversations, especially difficult ones, required coffee afterward, even when conducted alone. Steam rose from my mug as I carried it to my study, the warmth a small comfort against the chill in my heart. The filing cabinet drawer opened with a metallic whisper, a sound that always felt like the unearthing of history. Manila folders emerged. In chronological order, each one a stark lesson Trevor had stubbornly refused to learn. Miami first. The real estate prospectus had looked legitimate enough at the time. Glossy brochures featuring pristine condominiums overlooking Biscayne Bay. Trevor had been 34 then, still brimming with optimistic visions of quick fortunes. The developer had vanished with investors' money before even breaking ground. $75,000, simply gone. I spread the cryptocurrency documents across my desk. Mining equipment that existed only in carefully crafted online advertisements and slick YouTube videos. Trevor had shown me those videos, convinced he'd discovered the future of wealth, a foolproof path to riches. The scammer's website had looked professional, utterly convincing, until it disappeared overnight, taking another $50,000 with it. The food truck partnership came next. Trevor's business plan for this one had actually impressed me initially. Locally sourced ingredients, a prime downtown location near the courthouse. It had potential. Then I discovered his partner's criminal history. Embezzlement. The man had stolen from his previous employer, but Trevor, ever the optimist, had dismissed my concerns as mere paranoia. 3 months later, the partner disappeared with all the equipment and the remaining startup funds. Coffee cooled in my mug as I reviewed more bank statements, this time documenting casino bailouts. Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun, occasional trips to Atlantic City with Meredith. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $1,000 there. But the requests had steadily increased after his marriage, just until my next commission check became his standard. Plea, his perpetual excuse. Each folder told the same disheartening story. Trevor's eternal, unfounded optimism colliding repeatedly with harsh, undeniable reality. But tonight felt different. His anger had been sharper, more desperate. The way he'd avoided eye contact when describing his new syndicate, the vague answers about documentation, these were classic signs I'd learned to recognize from decades of screening unreliable subcontractors. I thought about Meredith's influence. Before their marriage, Trevor's schemes had been smaller, less frequent. But she seemed to encourage his grandiose thinking, pushing him toward bigger, riskier ventures. Her expensive tastes, her relentless pursuit of a lavish lifestyle, always seemed to require equally expensive solutions. The family photo on my desk showed happier times. Trevor, at 18, accepting his high school diploma, a genuine pride shining. In his eyes, an accomplishment truly earned through effort. When had that changed? When had he started believing that success should come without struggle, without the grind? My own father had built our construction business with calloused hands and 16-hour days. I'd learned by carrying tools, mixing concrete, understanding materials from the ground up. Trevor, it seemed, wanted boardroom success without ever setting foot in the basement. The study lamp cast a warm, accusing light across the financial wreckage spanning 6 years. Nearly $200,000 lost to schemes, scams, and simply poor judgment. Each time I'd hoped this would be his learning moment, the rock bottom that would force him to see reality. Each time he'd convinced me the next opportunity would be different. But enabling wasn't helping. Every rescue, every bailout, only delayed his inevitable reckoning with reality. I gathered the papers methodically, returning each folder to its proper place within the filing cabinet. The drawer closed with a quiet click, a sound of finality. Outside my window, streetlights flickered on automatically, illuminating empty sidewalks. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight's decision felt right. Sometimes the greatest. Kindness was saying no. I turned off the desk lamp and headed upstairs, leaving the study in darkness. A silent testament to decisions made and battles fought. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, a cheerful contrast to the lingering unease from last night. I folded my grocery list into my wallet, the confrontation with Trevor already feeling like a distant storm, necessary, but now finished. Coffee had cleared my head, and a shower had washed away yesterday's tension. Today offered the simple pleasure of routine tasks, a peaceful respite. I grabbed my reusable shopping bags from the pantry hook, checked that my car keys were in my pocket, and headed for the front door. Eager for the spring air. The morning carried the sweet, unmistakable scent of Mrs. Henderson's lilacs blooming next door in their full glory. Perfect weather for errands. My stride faltered halfway down the brick walkway, however. Something was wrong with my Honda. The car sat lower than normal, tilted at an odd, wounded angle, like a creature slumped in defeat. My stomach dropped as I approached the silver sedan. All 4 tires were completely flat, the vehicle resting almost on its rims. This wasn't gradual deflation from age or weather. This was something far more malicious. Each tire showed identical. Puncture marks near the sidewall. Small, precise holes that could only have been made deliberately. I knelt beside the front passenger tire, running my finger around the rubber. A metallic object protruded from the puncture. A roofing nail, exactly the same type one kept in my workshop for emergency repairs. Walking around the entire vehicle, I found the pattern repeated on each wheel. 4 nails, 4 tires, 4 precise acts of vandalism committed sometime between midnight and dawn. The timeline crystallized in my mind with sickening clarity. Last night's argument, Trevor's explosive anger, his parting threat about not coming crawling back when his deal succeeded. And now this wasn't random, desperate lashing out. This was professional sabotage, delivered under cover of darkness. I pulled out my phone and dialed Trevor's number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice thick with sleep, feigning innocence. "Dad, what's wrong?" "It's barely 9 o'clock. Son, I found my tires damaged this morning. All 4 of them punctured." A beat of silence. When Trevor spoke again, his tone had shifted, morphing into concerned sympathy. "Dad, that's terrible. Probably neighborhood kids. You know how they get during spring break. All 4 tires, Trevor. Professional job. Nails driven in at exactly the right angle to ensure maximum damage. Are you?" Another pause, a deliberate one on my part, letting the unspoken accusation hang in the air. "Are you accusing me of something?" The hurt in his voice sounded genuine, almost convincing, but I'd heard Trevor lie countless times before. About his gambling losses, about his failed investments, about his hollow promises to change. Just checking if you saw anything unusual when you left last night. Strange cars. People walking around. I drove straight home, Dad. Look, I know we had words yesterday, but I would never. This is vandalism. You should call the police. His denial was smooth, practiced. Should I? What proof did I have beyond unsettling timing and a gut full of suspicion? My accusation, if unfounded, could destroy what little remained of our relationship permanently. I'll handle it through insurance, I said finally, my voice carefully neutral. Thanks for the concern. Dad, wait. I'm sorry about yesterday, about everything. We both said things. Let's discuss it later, son. I need to call AA. The roadside assistance operator estimated 45 minutes for a tow truck. I hung up and stared at my crippled vehicle, feeling suddenly older than my 68 years. Had I been wrong about Trevor? The voice on the phone had carried genuine shock and sympathy. Maybe some random neighborhood vandals had targeted my car. Maybe the timing was coincidental. But 40 years of construction work had taught me to recognize patterns, and this pattern pointed toward one conclusion I didn't want to accept. I gathered my shopping bags and headed back toward the house. The grocery trip would have to wait. When the mechanic finally arrived, he confirmed what I already knew. 4 professionally punctured tires, $800 in damage. I returned home with a turkey sandwich and yesterday's newspaper, trying to focus on the sports section, to distract myself from the growing, cold suspicion in my gut. The phone rang just as I reached for my coffee mug. Trevor's name appeared on the caller ID. Hey, Dad, how's your day going? His voice carried a brightness that seemed forced, like sunshine breaking too quickly through storm clouds, too soon to be natural. No mention of our morning conversation about the tires. No reference to yesterday's explosive argument. It's been interesting, I replied carefully. Spent the morning at Morrison's Tire Center. Oh, right, the vandalism thing. That really stinks. Listen, I'm calling with good news, though. Tomorrow's my birthday, and Meredith's planned something special. I set down my sandwich. Trevor's 40th birthday. In all the drama of recent days, I'd completely forgotten. Nothing fancy, he continued, a little too quickly. Just family dinner at 6 o'clock. Molly will be there, and a few close friends. It would mean a lot to have you there, Dad. The invitation caught me completely off guard. After yesterday's explosive confrontation and this morning's tire incident, I'd expected continued silence between us. A frosty chasm, not a cheerful party invitation. That's thoughtful of you to invite me, I said, testing the waters, searching for a hidden agenda. Come on, Dad. I know we don't always see eye to eye on financial stuff, but we're family. Molly specifically asked if Grandpa would come. She's excited to see you. The mention of my granddaughter stirred something protective and warm in my chest. Molly had always been the bright spot in family gatherings, untainted by her parents' endless financial dramas. If she wanted me there, how could I possibly refuse? What should I bring? I asked, already softening. Just yourself. Meredith's. Handling everything. Food, decorations, the whole works. She's really gone all out this year. That explained the potential expense. Meredith's all out typically meant costs that would strain Trevor's already precarious finances. But for once, that wasn't my problem to solve. Of course, I'll be there. 6 o'clock sharp. Fantastic. Oh, and Dad, thanks for not making a big deal about yesterday. I was stressed about work stuff. Took it out on you unfairly. The apology sounded genuine, tinged with the vulnerability I remembered from Trevor's childhood, a glimpse of the son he used to be. Maybe I had misjudged the tire situation. Maybe he was genuinely trying to repair our relationship. Water under the bridge, son. See you tomorrow. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, feeling cautiously optimistic. Family dinners had been rare since Trevor's marriage to Meredith. Her relentless social calendar usually relegated family time to holidays and obligatory appearances. But a birthday celebration offered a genuine chance to reconnect, to bridge the ever-widening gap that had opened between us. Molly would be there, probably excited to tell me about her latest college adventures. Trevor might actually be in a better mood, surrounded by friends and family. I finished my sandwich while considering gift options. Nothing too expensive that would send the wrong message after yesterday's conversation. Something thoughtful but practical. Perhaps a nice set of hand tools for his garage projects, or a book about business management he might actually read. The afternoon stretched ahead peacefully. Tomorrow's party had given me something positive to anticipate, instead of dwelling on punctured tires and lingering family tensions. Perhaps this was Trevor's way of extending an olive branch, his attempt to smooth over our recent difficulties. The timing might seem suspicious, but birthdays, with their inherent focus on celebration and connection, had a way of putting family conflicts into perspective. I cleared my lunch dishes and headed to the living room to browse online for appropriate gifts. For the first time in 2 days, I felt genuinely hopeful about my relationship with my son. The next day, as the taxi pulled away from Trevor's sprawling house, I stepped out onto the brick walkway, clutching the carefully wrapped gift under my arm. The evening air was thick with the aroma of barbecue, mingling with the happy sounds of laughter drifting from the backyard. Through the front windows, I could see people moving around, their silhouettes a blur of activity. More guests than I'd expected for a simple family dinner. Trevor appeared at the front door before I could even knock, his face bright with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. "Dad, you made it. Come in, come in." The house had been transformed since my last visit. Where I remembered modest, albeit tasteful, furnishings, expensive-looking decorations now adorned every surface. Crystal glasses caught the light from a new chandelier, one I'd never seen before, its glittering prisms casting dancing patterns on the walls. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see a spread of food that looked professionally catered, laid out with an artist's precision. "Happy birthday, son," I said, extending the gift, a quality tool set I'd selected after much consideration, hoping it would inspire some practical pursuits. 40 years, hard to believe. "Thanks, Dad. This means everything." Trevor's smile faltered for just a moment, a fleeting shadow, something unreadable flickering across his face before his usual cheer returned. "Meredith, Dad's here." She emerged from the kitchen, an elegant vision in a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage payment. "Glenn, so wonderful you could make it," she purred, her smile perfectly polished. "Let me introduce you to everyone." The living room buzzed with conversation. Young professionals I didn't recognize mingled, wine glasses in hand, discussing careers and investments. The alcohol selection impressed me. Premium brands that Trevor definitely couldn't afford on his sales income alone. "Grandpa." Molly's voice cut through the polite murmur of the crowd. She rushed over, throwing her arms around me in a hug that felt like the most genuine greeting I'd received all evening. "I'm so glad you came. Wouldn't miss your father's birthday, sweetheart. How's college treating you? Finals are next week, but I'm managing. Want me to get you something to drink? Dad stocked your favorite beer." Trevor materialized beside us, an imported bottle in hand, a craft beer I recognized from expensive restaurants. "Remember this one, Dad? You ordered it at that steakhouse in Portland last year?" I accepted the beer, genuinely touched that he'd remembered such a small detail. Maybe his invitation had been sincere after all. Maybe the tire incident really had been random vandalism, and I'd been too quick, too cynical, to suspect my own son. The evening progressed with surprising warmth. Trevor's friends included me in their conversations, asking about the construction business with apparent, genuine interest. Meredith, ever the gracious hostess, kept my glass filled, appearing beside me whenever it emptied with a fresh drink and a bright, unwavering smile. "This is quite a spread," I commented during dinner, gesturing at the array of catered dishes. "Must have cost a fortune." Trevor waved dismissively. "Meredith's been saving for months. She wanted this birthday to be special, but the math simply didn't add up. The catering alone would have cost thousands, not counting the premium alcohol, the elaborate decorations, and the pieces of new furniture I'd noticed. Where had they found the money for such extravagance when Trevor had been begging me for investment capital just days earlier? Another wine, Glenn? Meredith appeared again, this time with a bottle of Cabernet that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. This pairs beautifully with the beef. I nodded, feeling the warm buzz of alcohol beginning to soften my edges, blurring the sharp edges of my suspicions. The evening's financial contradictions seemed less important now, overshadowed by the simple pleasure of a family celebration. Molly sat beside me, quietly chatting about her psychology classes, her presence a comforting reminder of what truly mattered. Trevor stood to make a toast, raising his glass with a theatrical flourish. To family, to second chances, to the future. Everyone drank, the clink of glasses echoing through the room. The wine was exceptional, smooth, rich, probably aged longer than some of Trevor's friends had been alive. As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing completely for the first time in days. But something, a tiny, persistent voice in the back of my mind, continued to nag at me. Trevor kept checking his watch, a subtle, a repetitive gesture. Meredith's smiles, while warm, never quite reached her eyes, and whenever I glanced around the room, I caught them exchanging meaningful, almost conspiratorial looks when they thought I wasn't watching. The party moved into its third hour with no signs of winding down. I settled deeper into Trevor's new leather armchair, another expensive addition I didn't remember from previous visits, watching the animated conversations around me. The wine had left me pleasantly relaxed. My earlier suspicions about tire vandalism and mysterious expenses felt distant, unimportant, like echoes from a fading dream. Then Trevor appeared at my elbow with another drink. Dad, how about I show you the renovations upstairs? We've done some amazing work on the master suite. Now, I glanced around at the ongoing party. Shouldn't you be with your guests? They're having a great time. Come on, I want to show you what we've accomplished. His insistence struck me as odd, a little too eager, but before I could respond, Meredith materialized on my other side. Oh yes, Glenn, you simply must see the new bathroom fixtures. We spared no expense. There was that phrase again, no expense spared, used by people who supposedly couldn't afford basic living costs without my financial assistance. The inconsistency jabbed at my now dulled senses. As I started to rise from the armchair, Molly suddenly appeared beside me, her face pale, her eyes wide with an emotion I couldn't immediately identify. Fear? Panic? Grandpa? She whispered, gripping my arm with surprising intensity. You need to leave right now. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. What? Please. Her voice carried an urgency that sliced through my wine-induced haze. Just go. Trust me, something's wrong. Trevor stepped closer, his smile never wavering, but his eyes darted nervously between Molly and me. Molly, what are you talking about? Grandpa was just about to see the upstairs. No, he wasn't. Molly's grip on my arm tightened, her young face etched with desperation. Grandpa, please, you have to go home. The raw desperation in my granddaughter's voice sobered me instantly, cutting through the alcohol like a shock of cold water. In 18 years, I'd never seen Molly look frightened like this. Confused, yes. Frustrated with her parents, certainly. But never this kind of raw terror. I think I should listen to my granddaughter, I said, beginning to stand, my voice firmer than I felt. It's getting late anyway. Dad, don't be ridiculous. Trevor's cheerful facade cracked slightly, revealing the irritation beneath. Party's just getting started. We haven't even cut the cake yet. Where are you going, Glenn? Meredith's voice, though still outwardly polite, carried a sharp steel edge despite her continued smile. You can't leave before we've properly celebrated. Something in their coordinated, insistent response triggered an alarm I'd learned to trust over 40 years in business. When two people work this hard to keep you somewhere, it usually means you need to be somewhere else, and fast. I'm feeling a bit tired, I said, extracting myself from the chair despite their hovering presence. Age catching up with me. Just one more drink, Trevor pressed, stepping into my path. I have a special bottle I've been saving. Another time, son. I moved toward the front door, but Trevor blocked my path again. Dad, really? Molly's just being dramatic. College stress. You know how it is. Molly made a sound that might have been a sob. When I looked at her, tears were starting to form in her eyes. That decided it. "Thank you for a lovely evening," I said firmly, stepping around Trevor toward the coat closet, my focus now solely on escape. "I'll call you tomorrow." "But Dad, tomorrow," Trevor started. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the front door, ignoring his protests. Behind me, I heard heated whispers between Trevor and Meredith, too low to make out words, but urgent enough to confirm Molly's warning had been justified. The cool night air hit my face as I stepped outside, clearing away the last of the wine's fog. I pulled out my phone and called a taxi, then turned back toward the house. Through the window, I could see Molly watching me, her face a mixture of relief and worry. She pressed her hand against the glass in what looked like a desperate, silent goodbye. Whatever danger she felt today, I trusted her instincts completely. When the taxi lights came around the corner, I decided to call her to get a full explanation. The taxi pulled away from the curb as I fumbled for my phone, streetlights casting moving shadows across the back seat. My hands trembled slightly. Whether from the evening's alcohol or the adrenaline of escape, I couldn't tell. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror, probably wondering why his passenger looked like he just fled a crime scene. I dialed Molly's number, praying she could talk privately. She answered on the first ring, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. "Grandpa, are you okay? Are you safe?" The urgency in her voice confirmed Marst's fears. Whatever I'd escaped tonight had been terrifyingly real and undeniably dangerous. "I'm in a taxi heading home," I reassured Molly, my voice still a little shaky, but striving for calm. "Molly, what was happening back there? Why did you warn me?" A long pause stretched across the line. I could hear muffled party sounds in the background, distant music, snippets of laughter, then the distinct click of a door closing, as if she'd found a private space. "I overheard Mom and Dad talking yesterday," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible, laced with fear. "They had some plan involving you and tonight's party." "What kind of plan?" My heart hammered against my ribs. The taxi continued its smooth journey through the city streets of Dhaka, but my mind was miles away, reeling. "They wanted to get you drunk and make you sign business documents. Something about transferring your company to Dad." The words hit me like a physical blow, a sickening punch to the gut. My own son, my flesh and blood, plotting to steal everything I built over 4 decades of backbreaking work, of honest sweat and meticulous planning. It was unfathomable, yet tragically, completely believable. "Are you certain about this, Molly?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The idea was so monstrous, so utterly devoid of familial love or respect. "Grandpa, there were lawyers waiting upstairs in the guest bedroom. Mom kept checking the time, making sure you were drinking enough wine. Dad kept trying to get you to go upstairs for that tour of their renovations." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The extravagant party, the constant drink refills, Trevor's nervous, overly eager energy, Meredith's calculating, unwavering smiles. They'd orchestrated an elaborate, cruel trap, and I, in my naive hope for reconciliation, had walked right into it. "How much did you overhear?" I pressed, my grip tightening on the phone. "Enough to know they planned this right after your argument Tuesday night. Mom said you were being selfish, keeping all that money when Dad needed it for his investments. They called me selfish." The sheer audacity, the warped sense of entitlement, twisted my stomach. "Mom was really confident it would work," Molly continued, her voice trembling slightly. "She said once you had enough drinks, you'd sign anything they put in front of you. Something about how older people get confused when they drink." The casual cruelty of their assessment stung almost as much as the betrayal itself. They'd reduced me to a mere mark, an obstacle to be overcome through deception and exploitation, viewing me as an old man whose faculties could be easily dulled and manipulated. "Molly, listen to me carefully. You have to promise me something important." "What?" "Don't tell your parents about this conversation. They didn't say anything to you for telling me to go, did they?" "Okay, I'll keep quiet. Dad asked me why I did it, and if I knew anything about tonight. I said no, and said that I told you to leave because it gets very dangerous in our neighborhood late at night, and I went to my room. They think I don't know about their plans. Molly's resourcefulness, even in fear, filled me with a quiet pride. Promise me, I'll deal with this situation, but you have to be careful. Can you do that? Yes, but what if they try something else? Mom was so sure it would work. You saved all my work tonight, Molly. I'm proud of the woman you're becoming. The taxi turned onto Maple Street, my house visible in the distance, a beacon of safety. Mrs. Henderson sat on front porch, her evening routine unchanged by the drama unfolding just a few kilometers away. I have to go, sweetheart. Thank you for being the only person in this family I can trust completely. I love you, Grandpa. I love you, too. Remember, if you need anything, call me. As I ended the call, one chilling thought echoed in my mind. This betrayal, this calculated scheme, would not go unanswered. The taxi's taillights disappeared around the corner as I stood in my driveway, fumbling for house keys with unsteady hands. The familiar weight of home felt different now, not just a sanctuary, but a fortress under siege. Evening, Glenn. You're getting home late tonight. Mrs. Henderson's voice carried across the small gap between our properties. She sat on her front porch in the wicker chair that had occupied that spot for as long as I'd known her, wrapped in a light shawl against the humid spring evening chill. Good evening, Dorothy. Just visiting Trevor. I managed a polite smile, trying to compose myself. I see you got your car fixed. New tires look good. I paused, keys halfway to the lock. A cold dread began to creep up my spine. How did you know about the tire problem? She was quiet for a moment, rocking gently in her chair. Then she stood and walked to the porch railing, close enough that we could speak without raising our voices, her gaze surprisingly sharp. Well, I was sitting out here Tuesday evening. You know how I like the evening air. I saw something that troubled me, but wasn't sure if I should mention it. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the night temperature. My heart began to race, sensing the imminent confirmation of my darkest suspicion. What did? You see, Dorothy? I think you should know what really happened to your tires, Glenn. I walked closer to her property line, my breath catching in my throat. Tell me. I saw Trevor leaving your house that night, around 9:30. He walked around your car with something in his hand. Looked like he was checking each tire. Then he knelt down by each one, did something, and stood up, looking around to see if anyone was watching. The confirmation hit me like a sledgehammer. Not random vandalism, not careless neighborhood kids. My own son, methodically destroying my property in a calculated act of revenge. It was a cold, hard truth that solidified the betrayal. Are you certain it was Trevor, Dorothy? I asked, needing to hear it one more time to accept the full weight of it. Glenn, I've known that boy since he was little. It was definitely him. This was right after I heard raised voices from your house. Not that I was listening intentionally, but sound carries on quiet evenings. She'd witnessed the entire sequence. Our argument, his furious departure, his immediate, petty, and premeditated retaliation. The timeline painted a picture of calculated malice that went far beyond desperate financial need. He didn't see me sitting here in the shadows, she continued. I keep my porch light off in the evenings. Easier to see the stars. I appreciate you telling me this, Dorothy. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. Family matters are delicate, and I don't like to interfere. But when I saw you getting those expensive new tires, I thought you should know the truth. First, the lawyer trap Molly had revealed, now confirmed tire vandalism from Mrs. Henderson. My son had launched a systematic campaign against me. Property damage followed by an elaborate scheme to steal my business. This wasn't desperation anymore. This was war. Let's keep this between us for now, I said, maintaining outward composure despite the cold rage building inside me. Of course, Glenn, but that boy needs to learn some respect for what you've built. You've worked too hard to have someone, even family, tear it down out of spite. Mrs. Henderson's words carried the quiet weight of 40 years of neighborhood observation. She'd watched Trevor grow up seen his gradual transformation from a promising young man to a bitter disappointment. Her assessment couldn't be dismissed as mere outsider judgment. It was the candid observation of someone who had seen it all. Thank you for being a good neighbor, Dorothy. I should get inside. It's been a long day. You take care of yourself, Glenn. And remember, if you ever need someone to verify what I saw, I'm not afraid to tell the truth. I nodded, genuinely touched by her unwavering loyalty, and walked toward my front door. Behind me, I heard her settle back into her rocking chair, resuming her evening vigil over our quiet street. Inside my house, I turned on every light, banishing the shadows. I stood in my living room, surrounded by 40 years of honest work and careful accumulation. Everything Trevor had tried to steal tonight through lawyers and manipulation, everything he'd already begun destroying through vandalism and betrayal. The systematic nature of his attacks, financial manipulation, followed by property damage, followed by an elaborate legal trap, revealed a calculated campaign rather than desperate impulses. My son had declared war on me. It was time to respond accordingly. Dawn broke gray and overcast, matching the cold, unyielding determination that had settled in my chest overnight. Sleep had come in fragments, interrupted by meticulous mental cataloging of Trevor's betrayals and a systematic analysis of his vulnerabilities. Now, at precisely 7 a.m., I sat at my kitchen table with steaming coffee and a legal pad, ready to transform 40 years of business experience into a precision weapon. The initial emotional shock had crystallized into something far more dangerous: strategic clarity. Trevor wanted to play hardball with a man who'd built an empire from nothing. It was time to remind him who taught him everything he knew about business. I moved to my study and pulled out the filing cabinet containing Trevor's entire investment history. Each manila folder, once a source of personal pain and frustration, now represented a lesson in financial irresponsibility, a documented pattern of poor judgment that would serve as my ammunition. The Miami condo scheme, the cryptocurrency disaster, the food truck partnership with a convicted felon, all meticulously documented with contracts, bank statements, and communication records. This wasn't about revisiting old failures for sentimentality. This was about weaponizing information that Trevor had made 3 critical mistakes in his pathetic campaign against me. First, he drastically underestimated my business connections and their loyalty. Second, he'd conveniently forgotten that I possessed ironclad documentation of every single failed venture he'd ever undertaken. Third, and perhaps most fatally, he'd assumed family loyalty would protect him from consequences, that my love for him would make me turn a blind eye. Wrong on all counts, Doc. I spread the investment documents across my desk, arranging them chronologically. $75,000 lost in Miami when the developer vanished. Another $50,000 evaporated in cryptocurrency mining equipment that never materialized. Then, $30,000 invested in a food truck business that utterly collapsed when Trevor's partner, a man with previous embezzlement convictions, simply disappeared with the remaining funds. Each of these disasters had involved other investors, people who had trusted Trevor primarily based on his connection to my reputation. I remembered them all. Marcus Thompson had lost $25,000 in the Miami project. David Rodriguez had invested $35,000 in the cryptocurrency scheme. Jennifer Walsh had contributed $20,000 to the ill-fated food truck venture. They had all lost significant money because they trusted my son, assuming his judgment reflected mine. More importantly, they all belonged to Lewin's tight-knit business community, a network I had cultivated for decades. Marcus served on the Chamber of Commerce. David chaired the local investment group. Jennifer worked in financial services and valued transparency above all else. They were perfect channels for information distribution. I retrieved my contact database and began compiling phone numbers and addresses. Anonymous tips required careful execution, a professional presentation, documented evidence, and crucially, plausible deniability. The construction industry had taught me that reputation destruction required surgical precision, not emotional outbursts. Phase 1 would be to expose Trevor's documented pattern of financial mismanagement to his previous victims. Once they started comparing notes, the investment community would quickly understand they'd been systematically deceived. Phase 2 would target Meredith's professional relationships. Her expensive tastes and calculating nature suggested income sources beyond Trevor's struggling sales career. A woman that calculating surely had business vulnerabilities worth exploiting. Phase 3 would involve legal and financial consequences designed to completely cripple their ability to attempt future schemes against anyone ever again. The beauty of this approach lay in its sustainability. I wouldn't need to maintain any deception or cover story. The evidence would speak for itself, and Trevor's victims would draw their own conclusions about his character and business practices. I opened my laptop and created an anonymous email account specifically for this operation. Professional Courier. Services would handle document delivery. Their discretion was well worth the cost. Timing would be crucial. A Friday afternoon deployment would ensure weekend processing time for the recipients, leading to maximum impact and Monday consequences. The phone rang, startling me from my intense planning. Trevor's name appeared on the caller ID. I let it ring, watching it vibrate on the desk. Whatever excuses or explanations he wanted to offer could wait. Right now, I had work to do. By 1 p.m. on Friday, my study resembled a war room. Investment documents lay meticulously arranged across my desk, organized by investor and loss amount. 3 large manila envelopes sat ready for courier delivery, each containing enough documented evidence to utterly destroy what remained of Trevor's financial credibility. The air thrummed with a quiet, focused energy. The first package was addressed to Marcus Thompson, who'd lost $25,000 in Trevor's Miami condo scheme. Inside were meticulously photocopied records, the original investment contract, clear bank transfer records, and even email communications explicitly showing Trevor's awareness that the developer was facing bankruptcy proceedings, even as he continued collecting investor money. It was irrefutable proof of his deceit. The second envelope contained David Rodriguez's cryptocurrency catastrophe documentation. This detailed the $35,000 invested in mining equipment that existed only in online advertisements, a phantom asset. I'd included the email thread where Trevor, in a moment of naive honesty, admitted the supplier looked questionable, yet insisted the returns were too good to pass up. His greed, documented in his own words. Jennifer Walsh's package detailed the food truck disaster. This involved the $20,000 she invested in a business partnership with a convicted embezzler. The contract Trevor had signed clearly included background check requirements, which he had deliberately, recklessly ignored. Each envelope contained a simple, stark cover letter, information for your consideration regarding Trevor Meyer's business practices. Please review the attached documentation and draw your own conclusions. No accusations, no emotional appeals, just unvarnished facts, dates, and cold financial records that spoke for themselves. I called Premier Courier Service and arranged same-day delivery to all 3 addresses. The timing was perfect. Friday afternoon would give the recipients the entire weekend to study the materials, compare notes, and contact each other before Monday's business day began. Anonymous delivery? The dispatcher confirmed. No problem. We'll need cash payment on pickup. Professional Courier Services asked no questions about anonymous packages. In 40 years of business, I'd learned that legitimate operations often required discreet information sharing. Sometimes, silence spoke louder than any accusation. The packages left my house at 2:30 p.m. By evening, 3 of Lewin's most connected business professionals would be reviewing documented evidence of Trevor's systematic deception of his investors. Marcus Thompson wielded significant influence in the Chamber of Commerce. David Rodriguez chaired the investment group that vetted local business opportunities. Jennifer Walsh's financial services firm advised half the entrepreneurs in town, and she valued integrity above all else. Trevor had picked the wrong people to defraud, and more importantly, the wrong father to betray. My phone rang again. It was Trevor's 3rd attempt to reach me since last night. This time, I answered. Dad, thank God. I've been trying to reach you since last night. His voice was a blend of relief and something akin to desperation. I was busy, son, I replied, keeping my tone flat, emotionless. About yesterday, Why did you listen to Molly and leave? Did she tell you something? His voice held a hint of suspicion, a desperate probe. I was just tired. It's been a long week. The lie rolled off my tongue with practiced ease. There was no mention of lawyers, no frantic apology about signing. Papers, no acknowledgement of the elaborate trap I had so narrowly escaped. The party was great, I said neutrally. Please thank Meredith for her hospitality. Of course. Hey, maybe we could have lunch next week? I've been thinking about our conversation on Tuesday night, and I may have some new investment ideas that will solve your problems. More intrigue, more attempts at manipulation. This man never learned. Let me check my schedule, and I'll call you back. Sure, Dad. Love you. Goodbye, Trevor. I hung up and checked the clock. 3:15 p.m. The packages had been in transit for 45 minutes. By 6 p.m., 3 very influential people would be reading very detailed accounts of my son's business failures. The phone rang immediately. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Part of me hoped it was Marcus Thompson, calling to verify the information he'd just received. But maintaining anonymity was crucial to the operation's success. Let the evidence work. Let Trevor's victims reach their own conclusions. By Monday morning, the local business community would be buzzing with documented proof of Trevor Meyer's systematic deception of his investors. Monday morning brought immediate confirmation that my investor campaign had achieved its intended effect. The phone had rung 6 times before 8 a.m. Business associates, their voices carefully measured, asking about recent information regarding Trevor Meyer's investment history. Word was spreading through Luan's tight-knit business community, exactly as I'd planned. Marcus Thompson. The finality of their departure hung in the evening air. Their car, once a symbol of Trevor's hurried ambition, disappeared into the growing dusk, leaving behind only the scent of exhaust fumes and the unsettling quiet of a suburban street. Stood on my porch, watching, until the last flicker of their taillights vanished. There was no triumph in my heart, only a quiet, weary satisfaction that justice, cold and unyielding, had been served. The phone vibrating in my hand, pulling me back from my thoughts. It was Molly. Her name on the caller ID was a welcome sight, a beacon of true connection amidst the wreckage of betrayal. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, my voice softening immediately. "Grandpa, are you okay?" Her voice was laced with concern, and I could hear the faint murmur of background noise, perhaps still at her parents' house, though she seemed to have found another quiet spot. I heard Mom and Dad talking about some kind of investigation. They were really upset. "Everything's fine, Molly," I reassured her, choosing my words carefully. "Justice has been served, and your future is safe." There was no need to burden her with the sordid details of her parents' downfall, only to confirm that the danger had passed. "I love you, Grandpa," she said, her voice filled with heartfelt relief. "I love you too, Molly," I replied, a genuine smile finally touching my lips. My bond with her was the one pure, untainted thing that remained from my fractured family. She was my hope, my reason. I hung up the phone, the cool evening air a balm on my face. 40 years of honest work, built brick by painstaking brick, remained, protected in honest hands, my hands. The business, my legacy, was secure. The next few days were quiet, a strange, almost surreal calm after the storm. I continued my routines, visiting construction sites, meeting with clients, overseeing projects. The hum of my business, the tangible evidence of my labor, felt more precious than ever. News filtered back to me, not through direct confrontation, but through the subtle shifts in the community. Trevor's name became a whisper, associated with phrases like unscrupulous dealings and financial irregularities. The local investment group quietly removed him from their roster. Meredith's career at Pinnacle Financial Consulting, once so formidable, evaporated. I heard through the grapevine that she was pursuing other opportunities, a common corporate euphemism for being quietly but firmly let go after an internal investigation. Her lavish spending habits, it turned out, were indeed linked to more than just Trevor's failed schemes, a detail the HR department had undoubtedly uncovered. I never spoke to Trevor or Meredith again. They made no attempts to contact me, likely too consumed by their own ruin, and perhaps, finally, too ashamed. Their silence was its own form of accountability. Life for me settled into a peaceful rhythm. I spent more time with Molly, watching her thrive in college. Her intelligence and integrity, a stark contrast to her parents' flaws. We'd have coffee, discuss her classes, her dreams, her plans. In her, I saw the true potential of our family. Line, untainted by greed or deceit. This story is a powerful reminder that while blood can run thick, integrity runs deeper. It's about standing firm, protecting what you've built, and finding strength even when betrayed by those closest to you. Most importantly, it's about the quiet heroes who step up, like a granddaughter with sharp instincts or a vigilant neighbor, to expose the truth. If you connected with Glenn's story, if you believe in justice and accountability, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more true stories of resilience and consequence, and share your impressions of this story in the comments below. We love hearing your thoughts and experiences. To listen to our next compelling story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.